Sonny's gone off the rails. Before Season 17 even began, McElhenney himself posted a screenshot from an email he got from FX warning him and the others about a scene in one of the episodes in which Dennis, to put it bluntly, jacks off a dog. The audience's response to this was, of course, to say that Sonny is back. The series has been known for years for offensive content other shows simply wouldn't tolerate, and showing that even after this long, the gang isn't afraid to delve into some truly depraved territory is actually a good thing, since it means they haven't lost their touch. However, this synopsis is extreme for even this show, and I'm sure most people assumed that the plotline would end up toned down or even removed altogether. Well, we finally reached the gang goes to a dog track, and, nope, not really. This is that episode, and they did not back down. The real question is, though, is it any good? I'll be straight with you, gross-out humor tends to not really be my thing, and I'll tell you right now that this episode made my stomach turn multiple times. What I'm not going to tell you yet is if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and I'm also not going to tell you which scenes had that effect on me. We'll get to that after we cover Charlie and Mac's subplot. At the beginning of the episode, it becomes pretty clear that Charlie and Mac have a very different thing going on to the twins. Mac seems to be practicing some sort of bare-bones lifestyle, but that falls apart pretty quickly, and the only real result of it is that he kinda looks like he has to shit because he's stank-facing so hard. The reason it falls apart comes in the form of Sparky, a man taking care of dogs around the area who Mac and Charlie identify as Raw. Just like Alex Wolff's character from episode 2, Sparky is a real eccentric guy. He speaks kind of like a cowboy, but he's barefoot and disgusting looking, and as their conversation ends, he picks up Charlie's hot dog off the ground and sticks it in his pocket. Guest actor Grayson Barry fascinates me as Sparky. He so quickly switches between seeming like a cool mentor type to then being the biggest trailer trash weirdo that makes Charlie seem regular. While looking up his character's name, I clicked on his IMDb page and found that the first line reads, "Until the age of 5, Grayson was convinced by his next-door neighbor that he was an alien." To be honest, this makes a lot of sense. Anyways, Mac and Charlie fail to take Sparky's advice on the dog race and lose, but afterwards, now trusting his inside knowledge, they meet back up with him. After another scene where he behaves just as strangely as before, they head over to his trailer, and I believe in this scene it is implied that Sparky jerks off the dogs he takes care of. Now, I really didn't want to be the one to say this, because they never say it outright, which I honestly kinda love, but in the context of the episode, him having tarps on the floor because dogs get a little messy is very suspicious. I'm 99% sure that that's the implication here. Anywho, Mac and Charlie tell Sparky that the park is closing and he immediately shoots himself. It's just as sudden as I described it. It's mighty similar to Simon, Alex Wolff's character, who I mentioned earlier, who either passes out or dies at the end of episode 2, literally within seconds. It really seems like Sonny is stepping up their side characters' insanity this season, having had two absolutely bizarre people only a little over halfway in. I actually think I might prefer Sparky a little more, just because of the ominous, gritty, cowboy-like delivery that he would give some of his lines that made his character simultaneously mysterious and goddamn ridiculous. But if we're talking the real meat of this episode, that'd be Dennis, Dee, and Frank. Frank introduces the episode with a hilarious Danny DeVito delivery when Dennis and Dee believe they are going to the Kentucky Derby, responding with a really tired and uncaring, "Whoops, Even though Dennis and Dee are disappointed with the shithole of a dog track that Frank actually ends up bringing them to, it doesn't take long for them to get invested. He actually manages to get them to win the bet on the dog's squeaky wheel, which is a way too normal name for a race animal to have in a comedy show. Complete missed opportunity. With this win, Dennis and Dee instantly start gambling with Frank and his friends, and as you might expect, they lose big time. It's a bit weird though, since we start with them just ripping strands of their clothes, and then we cut back and they are in complete trash bags and on leashes. This is the promo image we saw for the episode, and it's also the scene that made my stomach turn the most. I'll be honest, I had to skip some of it. By this point, I'm not even sure if Dennis and Dee are competing for anything, or if they had just become too indebted to not do whatever Frank told them to, but they are essentially made into dogs that race each other to eat dog food. Sonny doesn't do gross humor a ton, but when they do, they overdo. The shots of them eating are disgustingly zoomed in, and for some reason their faces become way more covered in it than you'd expect. This isn't the first time we've had this really specific issue, since all the way back in season 8 or so, the gang gets quarantined, had Dee eat a hidden pizza that then rubbed off on her face so much that there's musty shit all around her lips that only could have happened if she was eating it like a lion, or a bird if you prefer. Here, Dennis and Dee have a ring of dog food all over their faces, which they never even wash off, causing it to just crust for the rest of the episode. It's disgusting, and to be honest with you, I was a little too grossed out to laugh all that much. It's simply not my type of humor. Don't gamble. The only way that the twins feel like they can get back at Frank after this is to walk away with a little money, and so they resort to the worst. At the beginning of the plotline, Frank and his friend bring up that they have been exporting, and I don't know how else to say this, dog cum to Saudi Arabia for profit, and proposition Dee and Dennis to join. They don't, of course, but seeing no other option after losing everything, they go through with it, and even video it, as Frank brought up having to see the evidence earlier. This scene wasn't quite as bad as the dog food, since we barely see anything actually happen, but it's still rough. Again, I would say that this was a disappointing scene humor-wise, if not for the reveal. Frank drops the act and admits that, of course, they won't be getting anything for this either, because the entire Saudi thing was a lie. Not only that, but the entire trip was solely done so that Frank could humiliate the two. Charlie and Mac are essentially just there as props. Just like Frank is in a coma, the big man has pulled a scheme. Every time they make you feel bad for Frank, which they never do in this one, but do in others, you can surely expect that he will make you regret that by the end. Again, don't gamble. I really like the role challenges for this episode. Dennis and Dee are so depraved that the low that they reach might actually be worse than their crack addiction, and Frank gets to be a conniving son of a bitch. Might I remind you, he had literally no reason to do this. No motive, no retribution, just being an asshole. And I love that. So, this dog track episode was a bit more of a mixed bag for me than the last couple, yet I did actually like the majority of it, and it's not far behind episodes 2, 3, and 4. To put it bluntly, I'm easily repulsed, which made this episode not unpleasant, but certainly uncomfortable to watch. It's unlikely to be one I come back to often, though I'd still give it a 7.5 out of 10, because it's definitely funny, and it shows the series is going in the right direction. Even if it doesn't always please me, I'm happy the show is devoted to degeneracy. It wouldn't be the same without it. Anyways, where's my man Cricket? Bye now.